We all know how bad EA has been the last 10 plus years. Let's watch this. From legendary drops, EA is falling apart before our very eyes. And that is true. EA is... I wouldn't even call them a shell anymore of the former self. No, that is... No. They are... I don't know anymore. But there is a comment. This one. I actually met one of EA's devs who works on monetization a few weeks back. Dude didn't work on games, just monetization. That's a job position. Work on monetization items. Wow. That's a full-time job, guys. Let's get it.
If there was one company that I could point to and say they are a microcosm of everything that has gone wrong in games today, I'm talking about all the things that players hate about games today. A company that the vast majority of people would sit back and celebrate and watch them burn. Heck, they probably bring their own gasoline. That's Electronic Arts. They are the ultimate evil. They are the progenitor of some of the worst consumer practices over monetization, exploitation.
Activision is. Activision. EA is maybe the second. But Activision is on top of the list for me, at least.
The players, lowering of quality, lowering of standards. Heck, they run the whole gambit. And in a lot of cases, they're the ones that invented it. And the rest of the industry's been following their lead because they've made so much money doing it. But the funny thing is, that stopped. $6 billion erased in an instant. That's 6 Ubisofts if you guys are counting. And it's all because they had to tell their investors that, sorry, guys, FC25, which is their biggest franchise, it's one of the biggest franchises in the entire world, is not making money like it used to. People are not buying it, and people are not spending money on the microtransactions like they were before. On top of that, their star child in Dragon Age The Veilguard missed sales projections by 50%. Doesn't make a lot of sense, because that game was...
Oh, 50%? Oh. God damn, that's bad. 50?
The return to form for Bioware.
Yeah.
You know, I realize a lot of people are going to...
Bioware, I thought, okay, after Anthem, what came after Anthem? Yeah, it was Andromeda. And then I thought, you know what? Okay, they failed with Anthem. They better bring it with Andromeda because they... they transferred the team from Anthem over to Andromeda, so they didn't really finish Anthem. And then that game failed too. And the next one was Veilguard. Okay. Now they failed 2 times. They have no choice but to bring this in. Did they? Hell no. And EA is still keeping them around. 3 games in a row, that fails. And now, next one will be Mass Effect 4, which is coming next year, or 27. And I feel like if they fail with that, EA, I don't know what EA is up to if they don't do something. If they did a shakeup after Anthem, they canceled the rework for Anthem, which is so stupid. Anthem could be one of the best loot games on the market, at least with the plans they had. And they had something there. The gameplay was freaking sweet. EA doesn't see money at all. No, let's make Iron Man game instead. Yeah, like we want that. Come on.
Going to be like, LD, pump the brakes. There's no way that EA is going to fail. EA's too big to fail. The sports fans are going to buy the sports games, and they're going to make all the money off of microtransactions. The funny thing is, I don't think people understand just how much trouble EA is in. Because over the last few years, over the last decade, honestly, we've seen a gradual decline and a sharp decline from a lot of EA studios. Look at DICE, look at Bioware, look at Respawn. These studios are not producing at the same level of quality, and the players are not engaging with any of their products. On top of that, that same rot, that same virus is now seeping into their sports games, and they're suffering as well. So today what I want to do is I want to talk to you guys about one of the biggest publishers in the industry and how I think that we have front row seats to one of the greatest downfalls we're ever going to see. But before that...
Oh, no, that's Ubisoft. God damn it. I would say that's Ubisoft. EA, maybe. Depends on what the what they want to talk about. But I feel like that, as of now, that's Ubisoft.
I don't know if you guys are anything like me, but I'm not an interior decorator. I don't know how to make my home look homey. But luckily for me, Displayed has had my back. They've been the way for me to be able to pretend like I have taste, even though it's all anime and video game posters that are on my wall. But today they want me to talk to you guys about their texture designs, and I really like these. Displayed's texture designs take things to an entirely new level with tactile 3D contours and select matte and gloss finishes. You can feel the details in these. This is not just a poster, this is a piece of art. If you want to be a truly refined human being, you need to have these on your walls. I recently picked up their licensed Magic the Gathering stained glass mana symbol set, and it looks incredible. And there's so much more to choose from pop culture icons like Star Wars and Marvel to gaming franchises like Elden Ring and Warhammer. These posters are unlike anything else. And just like their classic designs, Texture uses that same easy magnet mounting system. No tools, no wall damage. You can swap them in and out whenever you want to. Plus, now they're available in larger sizes, so you can make an even bigger statement on your wall. Starting January 25th, you can snag Texture designs at discount. So click the link in the description below or go to displate.com and use my code LEGENDARY at checkout to get the best deal. This is a limited time offer between January 25th
I've been thinking about that for so long to order from them. Never did it.
Premium designs at an unbeatable price. Whether you're a collector or you just want to level up your walls, Displate Texture is the way to go. So check it out using the link below and use my discount starting on January 25th. Thank you, Displate, for sponsoring this video. If you haven't been keeping up, EA recently faced a major blow when their stock plummeted 15% following an investor meeting and town hall, wiping out $6 billion in value and hitting a 5-year low. While some of their franchises still maintain a strong foothold, the company has been reeling from a string of high-profile failures in both their publishing and their development. Battlefield 2042, Wild Hearts, Immortals of Avium, Tales of Kenzera Zhao, and Dragon Age: The Veilguard have all contributed to a declining interest in their portfolio. Even their once dominant sports franchises are starting to show signs of waning interest, creating a grim outlook for the future. Now,
they do nothing different. Like, come on, they... It's the same game every year, goddammit.
EA isn't in the same position as, say, Ubisoft, but they're undeniably on the same path. Years of devaluing their franchises, over monetization, ignoring their audience, losing key talent, and doubling down on misguided investments are finally starting to catch up with them. Despite its reputation as one of the most controversial publishers in gaming, EA is also the company that introduced many of us to the hobby that we love today, to some of the genres that we love the most today. To understand where EA is headed...
Battlefield. The plans they have for the next one seems great. I hope they deliver, and I have a plan for a video, so be sure to check that out in the coming days. I just gotta wait for my voice to recover a little.
I think it's essential that we look back at where they started and how they became a cultural force in gaming. In 1982, Trip Hawkins, a visionary from Apple, founded Electronic Arts with a mission to revolutionize the gaming industry. His goal was to treat developers as software artists, emphasizing creativity and innovation. This philosophy set EA apart early on, leading to the creation and publication of some of the most iconic franchises that created some of our most fondest memories. Now, from the start, Hawkins prioritized recognizing and promoting creative talents from within the company before anything else, fostering an environment where innovation could thrive. That bold approach attracted top-tier talent and laid the foundation for EA's meteoric rise to prominence. EA quickly became a household name in sports gaming, starting with its most iconic franchise, Madden NFL. Launched in 1988, this series redefined what sports games could be and became a cultural phenomenon. By 2018, the game had already sold over 130 million copies, and today, the numbers are estimated to be well over 160 million. Its influence extended far beyond sales. It became an integral part of football culture in the NFL, and it's now referred to as the NFL's 33rd franchise. With every new annual release eagerly anticipated by its fans, Madden NFL not only changed gaming, but it also helped popularize American football among new audiences. While Madden anchored EA's sports legacy, the FIFA series debuting in 1993 solidified the company's global impact. By combining official licenses with leagues and other teams across the world, they appealed to every soccer fan, and FIFA became one of the best-selling video games of all time. By 2021, it had already sold over 325 million copies, bringing the passion of soccer to millions of players and securing its place as a cornerstone of EA's portfolio. While EA dominated the sports genre, its influence extended far beyond that. The Command & Conquer series, a staple of real-time strategy, set the standard for base building, resource management, and tactical combat. The franchise not only inspired countless successors, but it also delivered some of the most memorable writing in gaming history, including Tim Curry's unforgettable performance in Red Alert 3. It cemented EA's role as a publisher willing to push boundaries in storytelling and gameplay.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
EA went on to find massive success with the Sim series, a groundbreaking life simulation game that allowed players to create and manage virtual lives. With its endless replayability and universal appeal, The Sims attracted one of the most diverse audiences of any game potentially ever. Mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, everybody was playing this game, mostly because they wanted to put an entire family in a pool and then remove the ladder and then put all the gravestones into the house.
I did that so many
The
times.
next family, but beyond that, it became a cultural phenomenon. It still remains one of the best-selling PC games of all time. In 2002, EA launched the Battlefield series and later acquired its developer.
Oof. Those were the times. Sitting with friends playing this. Oh, so many good memories.
DICE in 2006. From its debut, Battlefield 1942, the franchise redefined large-scale multiplayer shooters with massive battles, destructible environments, and realism. Battlefield 3 in 2011 and Battlefield 4 in 2013 set a new benchmark for breathtaking visuals and expansive maps, selling over 88 million copies worldwide and taking over the shooter scene. EA's acquisition of Bioware in 2007 opened the door to some of the most iconic RPGs in gaming history. The Mass Effect series quickly became a flagship franchise, combining rich storytelling with player-driven choices that shaped a universe.
One of the best games, not one of the best, the best games ever made. Mass Effect. I have finished the first Mass Effect so many times, like probably 25 times plus. Second one, 2 times, maybe 3, maybe. Third one, once. But I freaking love these. The way you get a connection to your character, the way you can transfer the save over to the next one, and the choices matter. It's just, Andromeda, good gameplay. That's about it. Graphics are good, but still cartoony. Didn't like it when it wasn't that dark. I like when it's dark and gritty like this, especially when I start with dark and gritty. Just look at Dragon Age Origins, huh? And then you look at Veilguard.
Trilogy released between 2007 and 2012, it captured hearts of millions of players and redefined what RPGs could achieve. Mass Effect 2 in 2010, with its character-driven narrative and redefined gameplay, is still celebrated as one of the greatest RPGs of all time. Bioware then followed this success simultaneously with the Dragon Age series beginning in 2009 with Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah, that was a good
Known
one.
for its intricate world building and morally complex narratives, the series earned its critical acclaim and established a loyal fan base. With over 15 million copies sold, Dragon Age solidified Bioware's reputation as a master of RPG design. EA's partnership with Respawn led to the creation of the Titanfall series in 2014, featuring fast-paced combat, wall-running mechanics, and controllable mechs. Titanfall brought a fresh perspective to the shooter genre. While Titanfall 2 in 2016 faced stiff competition at launch, it still earned a devoted following, and from my perspective, it's still one of the best shooters today. Respawn then built upon this foundation with Apex Legends in 2019, a battle royale game that was set in the Titanfall universe. Its squad-based gameplay, diverse characters, and innovative ping system.
Yeah, it's a very good battle royale, but not what we really wanted. Titanfall 3, let's get it. I still think that Apex Legends is one of the best BR games out there, but now I don't know. I haven't played it in a year or so I don't know.
Made it an instant hit, drawing 50 million players within its first month. Apex Legends proved Respawn's ability to be able to adapt and innovate, cementing
these
EA's
came out of
presence within
nowhere.
the live service space. Man, it is honestly crazy to look back and realize how many successful franchises and games EA has either published or developed, how long many of these games have stayed relevant, and how many of these games then went on to inspire new games. From its roots as a pioneer for developer-focused creativity to its dominance in sports, RPGs, and shooters, EA's influence has shaped gaming culture in profound ways. Its ability to be able to create games that resonate with diverse audiences. We're talking about just about anybody that's out there, while also pushing boundaries of what's possible in gaming, has made it one of the most significant publishers in history. I've been playing video games since essentially I was born. I popped out with an NES controller, and EA houses some of my favorite gaming experiences of all time. And I guarantee there's a lot of you guys that are going to agree with me on this. NHL 94 way back in the day. I remember staying up all night playing Madden with my little brother. smashing controllers on the ground when we celebrated touchdowns, slamming
James
flaming
Bond,
hot Cheetos.
Pokemon.
I remember going to school and falling asleep in class because I was up all night trying to be the edgiest
CS.
shepherd that I could ever be in Mass Effect, sharing builds in Dragon Age with my friends and talking about different story outcomes. I actually have to thank EA because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have learned to like truly appreciate games and how to be critical of them if it wasn't for playing Dead Space. That was the first game that really made me sit back and think about how games are made. It's the first series. It's the only series that I've ever 100%ed. The lighting was insane. The sound design was unlike anything I'd ever even experienced before. And that was the first times that I ever even thought about those kind of things in games. I never took the time to think about those kind of things. That moment when you walk down the hallway and you get grabbed by a tentacle is like the most insane experience ever. I'm pretty sure my body left my soul. I was so terrified. It was so good, man. It was so good. There is something in the founder's initial mindset, that idea that you need to be promoting and recognizing talent above all else. And because of that, it showed throughout their entire catalog. That's how you get great games, because you have to pay attention to the creatives. You have to keep them in charge. And that's how everything gets made. You keep making things and building things and being innovative. And the only way you can do that is by recognizing the talent that you have and making sure that they're the ones that are actually out there steering the ship in the first place. And that's how they became one of the biggest publishers, if not at one point in time, they were the biggest publisher in the entire world.
They were, holy shit. Activision too, but they fell off so bad that like way before EA. But then there was a switch. And I think that switch happened when Activision and COD did really well. When monetization became more normal, MTX, and then EA released Medal of Honor, was it Warfare or something? And they, well, COD was the inspiration. That's a Medal of Honor sequel. And that failed. They canceled it. That failed. They canceled the whole Medal of Honor franchise. Well, put it on hold. After that, it's been sort of downhill, but slowly. When it comes to multiplayer games, at least. And then single player games, slowly after that too.
World. But they were doing that. And they don't do that anymore. That's the thing. Because it all changes. It's always the same story with a lot of these companies. They always start for the best reasons possible. And then the next thing you know, well, EA just busted a hard left. It wasn't about the creatives. It wasn't about the innovation. It wasn't about the player's experience. It was about growing profits and quick turnarounds. How can we make the most money as fast as possible? And that's been the only thing that they've been interested in. And what's crazy is I found the exact moment it happened. A slow illness spread throughout the company, leaving its games, studios, and reputation fundamentally altered. For me, the symptoms of this first appeared with Mass Effect 3. I love this series. I loved Mass Effect 3, but something felt wrong. Role-playing mechanics were stripped back. Many of the choices that we made in earlier games were rendered completely meaningless. The ending felt rushed, and the addition of multiplayer to a narrative-driven game just felt jarring. It didn't feel right. It was foreign. It was as if the very soul of the franchise was being diluted. What I didn't realize at the time was this was the beginning of EA's transformation into a company almost entirely driven by profit. And that pattern continued with Dead Space 3. What had once been a harrowing survival horror series became unrecognizable. While I still enjoyed the game, it was just different. While co-op definitely added something unique to the experience, everybody remembers the elevator scene, the multiplayer lowered the stakes of the game, and the addition of a convoluted crafting system that was tied to microtransactions hollowed out the entire experience. The introduction of the resource integration gear rig system with its drones that are going out gathering things on a timer that you could be rushing with real money. This is not only intrusive, but it's emblematic of the shift in how EA actually viewed its audience, not as fans to be delighted, but as wallets to be emptied. Back in 2013, this kind of aggressive monetization felt alien, but now it just reads as a harbinger of the company's future direction. Now, after remembering what it felt like to play these games and how everything just felt different, I ended up doing a bit of research. I cross-analyzed some dates, trying to figure out what happened. Why did things change? And then I
love this. This is heavy research. Holy shit. This is... We just talked about it. When did it happen? For me, like what I said, slowly started with Medal of Honor Warfare after that. And when Activision became when they popped off with the COD and Warzone. Maybe not Warzone. It happened a little before that. But when MTX was starting to get, I don't know if I would say popular, but yeah, this late, Mass Effect 3, it definitely happened then, but the biggest shift, maybe Star Wars, Battlefront 2. I don't remember anything negative happening in 1 about MTX. In 2, hell yeah. But I don't remember when that came out.
Realize that there was a key leadership change in 2007 before these games released that fundamentally changed that company and all of the games to be released in the next 5 years, which both includes Mass Effect 3 and Dead Space 3. And that was the return of John Riccitiello as CEO in 2007. Riccitiello, probably one of the most infamous CEOs in all of gaming, and the one that said that he wanted to charge players $5 or more to reload their guns in first-person shooters. But when he came in, he brought a vision of relentless monetization. Under his leadership, EA adopted a new strategy that prioritized immediate financial returns over long-term creative success. This approach was then further solidified in 2011 when Riccitiello transitioned EA to the NASDAQ Global Select Market, a move that would demand stringent financial performance. We're talking this is going to place a ton of pressure onto this company to deliver consistent, exponential growth. The result was a relentless push for profits that came at the expense of quality, leading to decisions that would alienate their players and ultimately ruin their games. I think the fallout of this is most evident with EA's treatment of Bioware, a studio that was renowned for its rich storytelling and complex characters. Under EA, Bioware released major hits like the Mass Effect trilogy and Dragon Age Origins, but the cracks soon began to show. Dragon Age 2 was rushed to market with a development cycle that was reportedly as short as 14 to 16 months.
Oh yeah, I remember this. Holy shit. Yeah, it was very short. But wasn't it 18 months or something? Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, I don't know why they changed the game so much for every sequel. Why not keep the grittiness of Origins? They still haven't done that.
Result was a game that, while ambitious with its storytelling, felt repetitive and shallow, with recycled environments and oversimplified mechanics. Fans were left divided, and a once pristine reputation was now tarnished. Then came Mass Effect Andromeda, a game that was marred by rushed production, poor management, and lack of polish. What should have been a triumphant return to the series became a cautionary tale of overambition and underdelivery. This was then followed by Anthem, perhaps the most glaring example of EA's mismanagement. Bioware, a studio that's built their entire empire off of single-player RPGs, was now tasked with creating a live service game to compete with Destiny and Warframe. The result was disastrous, a game that was plagued by shallow content, a disjointed story, and chaotic development. BioWare's identity and much of its leadership was sacrificed in the pursuit of trends and profit margins,
but it was so
fans
good,
disillusioned and the studio's future uncertain. Even franchises of theirs that initially resisted the rot eventually succumbed to it. DICE, the creators of Battlefield, delivered hits like Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 4, games that cemented themselves as a serious competitor to Call of Duty, but as EA's obsession grew with monetization, so did their interference. By the time Battlefield 1 arrived, microtransactions and loot boxes had already crept into the experience, signaling the beginning of the franchise's decline. I think this all really came to a head with Star Wars Battlefront 2, a game whose aggressive pay-to-win mechanics sparked global outrage. Players were forced to grind dozens of hours to unlock iconic characters like Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker, or they could just pay to skip the grind. The backlash was so severe that EA had to temporarily remove microtransactions, but by the time they did, the damage was already done, both to the game and EA's reputation. The decay extended beyond shooters and RPGs to
loot
EA sports
boxes.
franchises. Once celebrated for their authenticity and innovation, today, FIFA and Madden NFL are widely criticized as hollow cash grabs, offering little more than annual roster updates. The real focus is put into modes like Ultimate Team, which encourages players to spend exorbitant amounts of money, real money, on card packs in a system that's honestly worse than any gacha game. These practices have drawn criticism not only for their exploitative nature, but also how they overshadow any meaningful content being added to the game. Even The Sims, a franchise that's synonymous with creativity and charm, has not escaped EA's grasp. While the base game offers a solid foundation, the sheer...
Like, there's so many expansions. So many. Holy shit. Like, some of them, they could just wait a little bit, and then they could put some of the future stuff inside the DLC, instead of releasing a DLC, and then release a short DLC after that with some packs or something. Like, it's... I think it was around $1,000 to buy all the expansions. That's just maddening.
volume of paid expansions, over 60 DLC packs costing up to $1,300 in total. You may as well go play Star Citizen at that point. At the heart of all of this decay lies a corporate philosophy that sees players not as people to engage with, not as players to deliver anything to, but as customers to extract from. Riccatello's infamous quip about wanting to charge players for reloads wasn't a joke, that was a mission statement. Under his leadership and that of his successors, EA has normalized exploitative practices, loot boxes, overpriced DLCs, and minimizing what is delivered to the player, setting a precedent for the rest of the industry. This company's relentless pursuit of profit at the expense of quality and creativity didn't just tarnish their reputation, it influenced other publishers to adopt similar predatory tactics. The result is an industry that often prioritizes financial exploitation over innovation, over creativity, over respect for their audience. EA's shift in priorities, driven by the desire to satisfy their shareholders and short-term financial goals, has left a trail of broken franchises, disillusioned fans, and squandered potential. Now, I realize everybody's going to have their own culprit. They're going to point to Activision or Blizzard or Ubisoft or maybe Bethesda in some cases. But from my perspective, EA is the pioneer in some of the most gut-punching, price-gouging, underhanded, exploitative tactics that are used against players today.
Okay, when he says it like that, yes, I agree. Ubisoft isn't this bad. They're still bad when it comes to MTX, but not this bad. But I assure you, like you're gonna see it in Shadows too, the best skins are the ones you buy, not the ones you get as a reward.
Used against the customers today. They do everything they can to take as much as they can without giving anything back. They're the face of greed, of gluttony, of sin. They are the Asmodan of the video game industry. Diablo 3 reference for you guys there. You know what's crazy is that we can actually see that they had such noble goals at the start, but the original visionary, the guy that started the company, the guy that came from Apple, ended up starting a company that is falling victim to the very thing that his former boss, Steve Jobs, warned most of the industry about, most of these creative industries about. Most people have seen the clips or they've heard the quotes by now about how the minute that you kick out creative minds and you hand over control to career CEOs and marketing minds is the minute that you stop providing a product to your customers and start providing a service to your shareholders.
Oof.
And that's rotting out the
true.
creative foundation of these companies. And what's crazy is we can actually see the minute where everything turned around for this company, the minute that they turned left on us. That's when they took on John Riccatello, parasite of a CEO, a dude that'll laugh about wanting to exploit his customers. That's crazy to me. Look what happened to their games. Multiplayer forced into everything, microtransactions in every single game. It proliferated throughout the entire company. Nothing was sacred.
Yep.
And I realize it's a relatively highbrow financial discussion to have when I talk about how he changed the company to NASDAQ Global Select. But what that does is it illustrates how stakes increased, how the expectations of the company were exponentially increased. They had to deliver so much more on the financial side than they normally would have to because they're not competing with video game companies anymore. They're competing with Exxon, with Google, with NVIDIA. It's a totally different ball game. And I don't think that that is healthy or sustainable in a creative industry because this industry is anything but consistent.
Yeah. And not only that, but we players are not stupid. It's better for developers and publishers to just be honest. Do you make the game or do you make the DLC for money? Or do you actually care and want to deliver a awesome product? Come on, don't tell us. No. We're selling this. And we're selling this DLC, this skin, so you can have a better product and yada, yada, yada. Come on, stop lying.
But they kept making money, and a lot of it. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these companies ended up following them and doing what they do in their games because, well, EA was making a ton of money doing it. But that's built off of the back of the fact that they have a lot of habit buyers, people that have been buying annual franchises and things like that. A lot of people that are buying things out of nostalgia. A lot of folks that have no idea that some of these studios and these games that they fell in love with years ago have had the soul sucked out of them. And I think a really good example of that is actually Anthem when you think about it, because that game was still a financial success. They sold 5 million copies. They broke even. I think they made even a little
Skins were expensive though.
bit more money than what they actually spent in development. And that game was a massive flop, a huge failure that was shut down within like a year of the game's release. That's crazy. they kept getting away with it. But the funny thing is that over all of these years, over exploiting your players, ruining trust, losing key creatives, well, slowly but surely, you're not going to be able to get away with it. And now, the Reaper has come for them. Oh man, this is a long time coming. The past couple of years for EA have been a roller coaster of highs and lows. They have had some incredible releases that reminded players of what EA is capable of when it focuses on quality, but these have been overshadowed by monumental failures, mismanagement.
Dead Space Remake was good though, apart from that it was exactly the same as the original. I don't think there was a lot of changes. I don't quite remember how the original one was, but I remember like, oh, I've been here. Oh, I done this. Like, just make a sequel at this point. Like, give us a fourth one.
And dwindling player trust. EA had a rare win with the Dead Space remake in 2023. It nailed the atmosphere, the tension, and the horror, all while upgrading everything to modern graphics and refined mechanics. As a fan of the original, I was genuinely surprised it's a proper remake that didn't cut any corners. Then there was Star Wars Jedi Survivor, a solid follow-up to Fallen Order with great gameplay and engaging story, and players loved it, but the launch was a bit on the rough side, with some serious performance issues on PC and on consoles. Still, despite the technical problems, it stood out as one of the better releases for the year. But these wins were not enough to mask the colossal failure that was Immortals of Aveum. This was an ambitious first-person shooter that struggled to gain any traction from the start. It was an original IP from EA, released into a crowded market with no clear audience. The game was essentially dead on arrival. Critics had pointed out its uninspired world design, repetitive gameplay, and lack of polish. Players were equally unimpressed, especially
I didn't like
with the
this
steep
either.
price tag of $70, which further alienated potential buyers. The result of this was abysmal sales figures that left EA scrambling to justify the $125 million investment. The studio behind the game, Ascendant Studios, faced massive layoffs shortly after its launch. We have the release of Dragon Age the Veilguard, which is supposed to reignite one of BioWare's most beloved franchises, but instead it serves as a stark reminder of how far EA and BioWare have fallen. The game is nothing more than a shallow attempt at activism. Its characters were uninspired. They removed any real choice or role-playing from the game as they neutered the main character's ability to effectively express themselves in any way outside of being everybody's friend or everyone's slightly more stern friend. Now, mind you, this game was supposed to be a live service game during its initial stages of development, and halfway through, EA and BioWare ended up pivoting, changing leadership, and bringing on Corinne Bush as the director. Now, many have noted that this is the reason why the gameplay is so simple and repetitive, and why the level design is so linear, and it's because, well, it's the old foundation that was left behind. Now, while many in games media would have liked to mislead players into believing that Dragon Age the Veilguard was actually a really good game, a financial success, a return to form for BioWare, as many had said,
it wasn't.
Flashing concurrent player numbers on Steam of upwards of 80k concurrent players, in a year in which we saw many releases like Helldivers, Pal World, Black Myth Wukong, Space Marine 2, Marvel Rivals, Path of Exile 2, and quite a few others break well over 200,000 concurrent players, even 500,000 or a million concurrent players in some cases. The game ended up being a commercial and financial failure, unable to meet 50% of EA sales projections, and likely leading to the firing of Corinne Bush and the looming layoffs or potential closure of the studio if Mass Effect 5 can't deliver.
Now, I think there are around 100 people that are making the next Mass Effect, which I think is good. It's about time they go a step back and just focus on one game. Because this is the first time in years they're focused on only one game. They've had like 2 or 3 games in the making at the same time, like for years now. So I think this is better. I think BioWare should do as Rockstar does it, you know? Just don't wait like over 10 years to release a game. Like, but yeah, one game at a time. I think that's when BioWare shines. So I think that's smart.
I brought this up in a previous video, but if they spent $125 million on Immortals of Aveum, it's safe to assume that Veilguard likely cost twice that, if not triple that, since the game was in development for almost a decade and had considerably more marketing behind it. And I can already hear it now, but those are single-player games, LD. EA makes all of their money on live service games and sports games. A few losses in AAA is meaningless in the face of billions of dollars in microtransactions, right? Well, that would be the case if those games were healthy, but the cancer has spread throughout the entire publisher. Apex Legends, one of EA's crown jewels, has been quietly bleeding players and relevance over the past couple of years. After its peak in 2023 with an impressive 624,000 concurrent players on Steam, the game has seen a steep decline, losing 70% of its players in 2024. Now just hovering above 100,000 players, essentially returning to their launch numbers. The minute that Apex reached its peak, EA sought to ramp up the game's monetization with costly new battle passes that removed the ability for players to be able to buy the next battle pass upon completion. Every new event that they added essentially became a microtransaction collection event.
Yeah, holy shit. Every event, that's the worst part of this game. Every event, you have to pay for the skins. Like, there's no real reward to anything. You just pay to get the items. I mean, what the hell? That this, it still haven't been any changes yet. Come on. What the hell is this? And they get away with it?
Asking players to spend even more money. Meanwhile, there was no new real content that was being added to the game. Apex saw one map change and one new hero, and that's it. No new weapons, no new content, no value delivered to the player. Only EA and Respawn hands out asking for more money. Now, amidst the turmoil, EA did achieve a monumental milestone with the release of College Football 25, the long-awaited return to the beloved college football franchise shattered records, becoming the highest-selling sports game of all time in the United States. However, the success of College Football 25 doesn't really matter because while it did well in the US, and that's where people actually watch American football. This success means nothing in the face of a failure regarding EA's most popular and lucrative franchise in FIFA, now known as FC 25. Soccer is global, American football is not. Largely panned by critics for being uninspired, adding nothing to the game's core experience other than a roster update, all of EA's improvements and efforts went into the game's Ultimate Team mode, which is where most of their monetization is housed. It's essentially a gacha game for sports fans, and instead of collecting waifus, they're collecting their favorite players who are essentially power crept 10 times faster than characters in Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact. You guys think Chinese gacha games are bad? You haven't seen Ultimate Team. You could put a whole team together, and the next month, they're all damn near useless. Now, come to find out, this mode is actually EA's cash cow. This is where the vast majority of their money comes from. They use it in Madden, NHL, and FIFA, and the audience is tired of it. It's become too costly and too repetitive.
What the hell are they doing?
Is undone when the next yearly installment comes.
And what the hell are people doing? Why do you pay for this shit if you don't want it? Come on!
Out. The players are tired of spending, and with no real effort put into the game's core experience, there's really no reason for casual players who don't play Ultimate Team to come in and buy the next installment. This is a huge deal, and I'm surprised that nobody's talking about it, but the financial impact of both FC 25 and Apex Legends failing to meet financial expectations cannot be overstated. These two franchises are EA's primary means of making money, generating the bulk of their live service revenue. Without either of these games performing the way that they need, and all of their AAA games either flopping or being straight up financial failures, EA is in a lot of trouble.
Hell yeah.
Recently, EA's leadership has promised to turn things around by 2026. Basically, 2025 is already a wash for them. But how do you rebuild trust with an audience that you've spent years exploiting? How do you reignite the passion of the players who have watched their favorite?
I feel like we gotta play this sometime. PF5, like, it was a great game at launch, but holy shit, it became better.
Favorite franchises erode under the weight of corporate greed. You don't, and I don't think they can. You now have a company that has spent years destroying its own reputation, the reputation of beloved studios and franchises, that has created an environment in which even habit buyers don't have a reason to return because they've ignored the core experience of their games, and their increase in monetization and commoditization of their games has priced so many customers out of even buying their games in the first place. A company that laid the foundation of the industry is now going to collapse under the weight of their own greed and investor expectations. They have lost their financial foothold. Both FC 25 and Apex Legends make up the vast majority of their microtransaction income. I am so surprised that they only fell by 15%, and I think the only reason they have is because their investors don't understand the full picture of what's going on or how much money they're going to be hemorrhaging very soon.
Could be.
Because this is not something that you're going to be able to dig yourself out of very quickly. That's the reason why he said, oh, we'll fix it next year, because they're thinking about annual releases. And people are going to sit back and say, well, LD, sports players, sports games, these guys, they're going to go buy the annual releases. And that might be true unless 2K gets the license for FIFA. That would smoke them. Most sports
True.
fans or sports game fans,
Hell yeah.
they enjoy the 2K games far more. I know I did. You bring back NHL 2K, you got me as a customer, baby. They'll be cooked. I don't think that their investors have any idea how much trouble this company is going to be in if they can't turn it around. And to be honest with you, I don't think they can. I genuinely don't. I am so surprised that I'm the only one that's reporting on this because this is such a massive deal. Years of watering down, under-delivering, rush development, over-monetization, exploitation of your players, and, well, also on top of that, they have, licensed monopolies for years. Basically, every underhanded tactic in the book have put them in the corner. They don't have trust.
But the same thing happened with Need for Speed 2. Monetization ruined the game, the games, the franchise. Respect. That's what we want. Respect our time, respect our money, and let us love the game. And please, if you want to make a game, bring developers, people that would love to make the game and love it while doing it. Don't do it for money. I know you need money, but come on, it's about time. Like, make a game with love, not rush it to earn money. Love equals money, I guess.
People that are rooting for them anymore. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody that doesn't think that EA isn't a parasite in this industry. I've said it once, I'll say it again. You can only push your developers, your players, your customers, your franchises so far. You can only take so much until you've taken too much, and EA has taken the lion's share for far too long. I do not understand how they thought Ultimate Team was going to be a sustainable business model.
Exactly.
I know I have gacha players in my audience. Think about if you played Genshin, and every year they just cut it off. They just stop developing. They stop supporting the game. All the money you spend, all the waifus you got, gone in an instant. It's time to play Genshin 2025. New game, new waifus. Start over from scratch. You're not building any loyalty. You're not building anything. The reason why those games are successful in the first place is because the players feel invested in those games. And if that investment is not respected, then those players do not stick around. So if you are, by the way, I want you guys to keep in mind, the pricing is like the exact same as gacha, if not more expensive in these sports.
Yes.
And the characters are power crept 10 times, 20 times faster. It's crazy. If any of you guys have played it or seen it, it is wild how predatory it is. And that's not sustainable because you're just going to bleed your customers dry too quickly. And the funny thing is that you look at their sports games, and essentially all of their games are like this. I used to be an NHL sports fan. I still watch sports, but I just used to play the NHL game, but I don't play it anymore. And I was hooked on Ultimate Team for a little while. For a year, I was hooked on Ultimate Team. And when the new game came out and all of my progress, all the money that I invested, all the grinding that I did was basically thrown out the window, I was done. I was like, I'm not going to do that again. Are you kidding me? You don't get anything for anything, any of the work that you put in before? I'm out, man.
Yeah.
No.
I get it.
Especially when you know that, like, how many times have you guys went and bought one of these sports games and you didn't buy it the day that it came out? So you come in like 4 months late or something like that and you get the game. Now you're starting on the back foot and you're only going to have like 6 months of those characters that you play being relevant? Are you out of your mind? It's not going to work. Well, I can't imagine them crashing hard and fast. I think we are going to bear witness to one of the greatest downfalls we've ever seen because they don't have the talent. They don't have the creatives.
Yep.
They have the IPs, but they don't have the people to be able to make them what they were before. Bioware is cooked. DICE is cooked. EA is cooked. Their core studios are everything's cooked. It's terrible.
Everything.
Again, I am surprised that they only fell 15%, and I think this is only the very beginning of what's going to be happening because
it's so true.
You've just taken too much. You've done too much. It's not going to work out. Apex Legends, maybe you can bring back some players to that. Maybe you drop a new map and some new characters and weapons and things like that. You vastly change the game in some way that brings players back and makes it trendy again. Maybe. But the problem is that you have games that are out there now. Marvel Rivals, I realize it's not a battle royale, but they're able to deliver content at a cadence that I don't think Apex can. 4 characters in 2 months or something like that. 2 characters a month or whatever they're doing right now. Game's still at 400K concurrent players. They're doing just fine. And they're siphoning a lot of the players from some of these other games where they aren't being treated as well. I talked about that in my Marvel Rivals as a wake-up call video. monetization's better. It's not in your face. They're not begging you to do anything. You can
No.
just play the game as is if you wanted to.
But it's the skins are a little expensive though. But they have sales often, which is good.
And you'll never be bothered by it. That's not EA. That's not how they roll. And that's not how they're going to be rolling much longer. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of this. This is going to be a wild ride. I'm going to tell you that right now. I got the same vibe that I got from Ubisoft. And, well, let's hope I have the death touch. Let's see if it can happen again. Let's see if I make another video about a company potentially, falling into ruin, and see if that, gets accelerated by, me making a video. Wouldn't that be great? I would love to have that power. Anyway, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. If you guys enjoyed the video, share it with your friends, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, follow me on Twitch, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Family, family, family.
Hell yeah.